Martin Jerry, you've seen him covered in the past, finally came out with a light switch that matters. And yeah, literally it does do matter. Now you're probably saying, well, matter is not really something new in the form of light switches and everything. Well, this is a little bit different because this one comes pre-flashed. Yes, pre-flash. No, we're not flashing this. We're not taking nerdy wires and sticking them. You take it out the box. Now, depending on what you use, because it has matter, you could matter pair it straight over Wi-Fi to like Google or Alexa or even Homey or whatever it may be that supports matter. Now, Home Assistant users, guess what? It has Tasmota, MQTT, boom, straight into the Home Assistant integration. You don't even need matter, so that doesn't matter. And we're going to see how many times we can say matter. And I guess this is the first time I've done a video with pants on. So we're going to jump into this, and should we take it apart first? Yeah, there's the chapters down below. We want to see what's inside. If you don't want to see what's inside, just skip down below, jump over to the stuff that matters. Martin Jerry did not send these for review. I purchased these with my own funds off of Amazon, so this definitely keeps it unbiased as always. And definitely, if you are looking to buy some, you can find the Amazon link down below in the description. And the way those do work, those are affiliate links. They do help out and do support the channel, but at no additional cost to you, and do appreciate it. Or you can just go there and just search for it and buy it yourself if you feel like it and don't want to use my deal. Now, this is like this rocker style, and it's, some of them say 1 gang or 2 gang, or don't get confused by that. Think of, we're the idiots in the US that we call the gangs the actual width. And I know it makes sense to me, and I think it's idiot the other way, but whatever, we still use imperial. So this is actually 3 gang of a regular decor light switch. So you would have 3 actual widths. But so don't get confused on that when they say 2 gang, it's still a single gang. More of the gang is actually the number of relays inside, more of like the channels. You'll see like Akari and stuff in their newer stuff calls them channels, and then relays and then buttons. They got smarter with that and didn't call it gangs. I guess someone called them out on it. Maybe someone, I don't know. So it's this nice looking rocker, kind of like a dimmer. Now, they come out with a couple different models, and these are going to be ESP32-C3. We'll get into that, and they've come out with some other ones before. I'm trying to think which ones that I wasn't really happy with. Yeah, this one is the bathroom humidity sensor one, but they're this smaller size. They've done matter before, but they're small ones with the wires built on. And then they were only like 10 amp. You can see these were only 10 amp. And they do have Tasmota on the back. And yeah, I just wasn't a fan of these too much. So I just didn't cover the video on it. No big deal. It happens a lot sometimes. And then we'll just throw it to Miss Blur for a short or something. Don't tell her I said that. But these were my original. I love these things. You can still get these actually in pre-flash and Tasmota as well, but they're only ESP32-66. I have these all around the house. They do have a red and green LED in them, pretty slick. I like that they're flashed with Tasmota. You can put ESP home on them easily because they're ESP8266s. And remember the OG, and no, it's not that OG, is the OG dimmer by Martin Jerry. This one's a little different. I'll try to show the picture because I didn't have one available, but this was their 3-button dimmer. One of my favorite dimmers, still hands down, because there's no secondary MCU to deal with inside. So that what that means is you could actually do what you wanted to do with the buttons. There was no secondary chip stealing the button presses. So if you really wanted to do multi-press on all 3 buttons, you could. Couldn't do that on some other ones. Now, the cool thing about that is I like to do them with device groups, the whole thing. But of course, that's not what this video is about. We're going to talk about stuff that matters. So they do have an LED down here at the bottom, and then they've got little buttons like Wi-Fi and reset. I haven't dug into those, but they think they are exposed. But yeah, they'd be hard to press things. Even though this is the single gang or single relay, you can see here it has the hole for the other output. It's just because it's a single relay, so it's only going to be, but I'm curious to see, do they have both buttons inside? We'll see if they're exposed on two different buttons or are they tied together. I'm not actually sure. Now, it does say 1500 watts max on the back which is oddly like 100 volts. Yeah, towards the bottom of the yellow. See, it says 1500 watts, 100 volts. I don't know. They're trying to do 15 amps, thinking you would divide. I don't know. I guess I need to find out what relay's inside. So let's bust up inside. I already busted this one apart, and I know it's not actually breaking it. If you take a flathead and you pry around the sides or take a spudger, it will pop apart. And be careful because there is this little wheel here. The two relays down in the body of it, this is going to be your main side of it. Voltage, I guess I need to see what amperage those actual relays are on the back. Hopefully I can see them on the sides, probably on this side, unfortunately. I can pry it out. It is a 10 amp relay. So yeah, we're only 10 amp relay on these, which I kind of figured that given that they were trying to, with the weird fuzzy math. So actually on the switch itself, you can see we have the ESP32-C3, and it's in that 12F form factor. So that definitely, if you wanted to really swap it back to ESP32-66, you could be a weirdo. But I've done some weirder crap, I guess. Where'd my screwdriver go? Let's take this thing apart. I've really liked, and harassed Martin Jerry a little bit about their light switches and stuff. And that's kind of where we really came up from having Tasmota pre-flash. Because I told them, why don't you just flash them with Tasmota before you send them out and sell them on Amazon? And, well, here we are. So let's just see what I'm thinking. Because I've always asked them, hey, put a pin header. That way we could just flash things. Because these are ESP32, it's not as easy to put ESP home on them if you want to go that route. Like, if you really want to do Bluetooth proxy from your light switch, and it is over Wi-Fi, so be careful of that, but the light switch isn't doing much. It's easier to serial flash. There are some ways you can OTA them, but it's kind of a pain. I haven't done them before. If you've done one, definitely let me know. Oh, it looks like in their dimmer, they're going to have multiple LEDs across the top. And then this rubber piece is supposed to stop the light bleed. TX, RX, ground, and 3V3. And where is boot? We would need boot. Probably one of the buttons, I'm hoping. We could hold one of the buttons. But it looks like they've got LEDs down here at the bottom. Let's zoom in for you. There's LEDs down here at the bottom. There's the reset. There's the Wi-Fi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure what those are. Nothing else really to it. So kind of a neat little design. I'm liking it. We'll see how they work. And of course, that makes it really easy, if you wanted to, use your little pin header, some DuPonts, and you can flash to ESP home without having to jump through all the hoops. Because again, this is ESP32-C3. So I'm gonna put this back together and we'll jump into actually pairing it up on our Wi-Fi, and then we'll look at Matter, and then also because it has Tasmota. So this is the single gang, or the single channel relay. See the one relay box over there. But I thought there was something interesting when I checked this one out. This chip right here, the BL0937. And then you'll notice up here, the shunt resistor, and then I do see a fuse over there. And what amperage is that? Probably for the power supply. It's a 2 amp fuse, probably for the power supply. or maybe something dealing with the power monitoring. Maybe if you'll know a little more of the electrical engineering side, you can make a comment. But yeah, this has power monitoring on it. I'm curious to see how it works. The 2-channel one does not have power monitoring because the other relay sits right there, of course. So if you haven't paired Tasmota devices with, put it on your network, really all you got to do is just they're in AP mode, which is access point mode. Open up your Wi-Fi. Now, if you're using your computer, you should look for the little access point mode, or if you're using your phone, just look for another Wi-Fi. It should be like Tasmota dash with a bunch of letters and numbers on it. If it does not pull up the browser for it, you need to browse over to 192.168.4.1, and then it should give you the page to pick your particular Wi-Fi, and then you put in your password. Then it will join up. It'll even give you the IP. That way you can browse right over to it. Now, once you do that, it gives you the Tasmota page. This is the web browser actually on the light switch itself. And let's pull that up while I speak about that. Now, I do have this on my little test board here. It's just one light switch wired up to one 60-watt incandescent light bulb. Sorry, California green people out there, but these bulbs are excellent for doing the power monitoring calibrations. Remember, this is the single channel, or what they call it, one gang, and it has power monitoring on the chip itself. Now, one thing I didn't mention when the teardown of it, that little wheel that you saw on there, that's actually the dimming for this white light right here. I think that's like their little night light feature, because it doesn't seem to impact it when it's on or off. And that light is not changing. It's still that white light is on there. Kind of neat. You can set that before you put that in the wall. And that way you can determine if you want, hey, do I want like a really dim light, or do I not want a light at all? Kind of neat, but you need to make that decision before you put it in the wall. Now, once you do pull up the interface, you're going to get this little Matter QR code. You do get the code here as well. That would be if you're going to pair that up directly with another Matter controller. If you're going to do Home Assistant, I would not do Matter, because it really doesn't make any sense to do it with Tasmota and Matter. Let's just stick to MQTT for that, and I'll show you that. But we're going to test it out and check out a few things first before we pair it with anything. But I will pair it with Matter, and then I will pair it with MQTT and use the regular integration of Home Assistant like probably most of y'all will be doing. But it's still cool to have that option for Matter for doing like Google Home, Alexa, Homey, a bunch of them other ones that may not support things. Now, this is straight out of the gate. I did not touch anything on this, did not touch the template. I wanted to look and see what they had for things. So it is ESP32-C3. There's that power monitoring chip. Looks like they do have LED 1 inverted. Well, it should be 1. Why is that? That's an interesting one. Because I saw a few LEDs there on the actual board itself. So this is the cool part about being able to open source. You can do whatever you want the LEDs to do. You can even do whatever the buttons. That's also one thing I wanted to see. There's only one button on the single gang, unfortunately. I wish there would have been 2 buttons. So doing the old new device procedure thing we did from way back, just assigning relays to the other GPIOs. And yeah, you can see here, there's actually there's a red LED, very dim white LED behind the switch. So you can see the little dot there. It's just a very dim little dot. And then that other one is a red LED behind the white. See if I can toggle it here. Yeah, there it is. So you get all those options, plus you do get that white night light with the wheel. So kind of neat that they've done it this way. Be honest with you, I would prefer probably for a night light, not just using the little white wheel, just that red LED, and then assign it to a PWM, or just use LED PWM, and then you can actually make that red LED even lower brightness. That way it's really super low, just not gonna annoy you in a dark room. But there's always options for everything. It's your switch. You do what you want with it, right? Once you do that, you save it. I've already saved it. is on the main screen, you're going to get now 2 lights. Is now this toggle 2, you can see that is that red. If you look above my head, you can see it barely there. If I do crank it up, you can see it gets pretty bright. And then I could set that just like super low. Like it's hard to even see, but yeah, pretty neat what you can do there with the night lights. So to recap, this is what I did. I set LED 1 is the little pin light, the little bitty small one. And then LED link right here is just fake. It just has to be there for Tasmota. And then I set this PWM inverted. That's that red LED, so that gives me that other light. Curious to see how that happens when I expose it to matter. Do I get 2 lights with it? But yeah, this is all for fun and games. Anyway, let's go ahead and try to pair this up with matter and see what happens. I'm probably just going to pair it up. Hell, why not? Let's put it in Home Assistant with matter. I don't know why. We've done dumber things on the channel. So really, if you go into, I'm going to use my phone. You go into Home Assistant here, and then you hit Add Integration, and it should say Add Matter Device. If you don't have that, you will need to add the Matter add-on, or if you're running like Unraid or something, I probably want to add the Matter Docker container or whatever service you want to do. You need to add Matter to get that Matter integration because it matters. So I'm going to say it's not in use, and then I'm going to open the camera app and scan the QR code. Now, do make sure you're on the same network as your, device and everything. That way it can get over and connect to Home Assistant and everything. Got generating matter credentials and connecting to Home Assistant, and it shows up in Home Assistant. Let's pull it up on the screen and go to my matters devices. And there it is, 1 gang switch. And yeah, you can see we get, I'm not sure what the on level 122 is. Maybe that's the dimmer I have set, but I've got light here. That's probably that red LED. Yeah. And then the actual switch. So, oh, it does have, okay. So it does work using matter, and you can fire stuff up. Interesting there. So it should work fine with like Google Home, Alexa, and everything there. Now, I want to delete this out because I really don't want it being in as matter, and delete it from Home Assistant. Matter doesn't always cooperate. I'm hitting delete. Do it live. We don't need matter to be enabled because it doesn't matter, because I'm going to use MQTT. Now that switch is forever going to be stuck in my stupid Home Assistant. This is why I don't like matter devices in Home Assistant. It's never plays nice with me of trying to delete stuff and everything. And then sometimes I delete one thing and it deletes like all of my stuff. And then you got like 10 or 15 devices, everything's gone. So that's my little rant about matter. I'm not a fan really. For the Home Assistant users that are going to be using MQTT, it's stupid simple. To add it into Home Assistant is go into configuration, go to configure MQTT, and then you will need to put your Home Assistant MQTT instance. Mine is actually a DNS address. Yours might be homeassistant.local. You don't need to typically change any of this stuff, except for the user ID. That is going to be a valid user ID if you're using HAOS in the MQTT add-on. That's going to be a valid user that you set up inside of Home Assistant. So you could just make a secondary user if you didn't want to put in your primary Home Assistant ID and password here. The topic, you can set it to what you want. I like to set it to something else, normally like whatever it is. And that way, if I'm looking for it inside of Home Assistant or MQTT for some reason, I can actually see that topic. Just make sure it is actually a unique device. Don't call it like living room light, and then you have 10 of them and call it all the same. You don't want to do that. So this is just going to leave it as part of the Mac ID, which is fine for now. I'm just testing this. So once it reboots, you should be able to go to the console, and then it should see like MQTT. It's got all this stuff is showing it's connected. It is dropping into Home Assistant. Now, if you want to go in, you can rename stuff actually in configure other unless they've moved it. Yeah, here's the device name, the friendly name. If you don't want to call it one gang switch. Still wish they would move that to the other stuff because it's like, a lot of times I want to do that config before the MQTT config because then sometimes it sticks in Home Assistant. So once you get into Home Assistant, if you look in your integrations, it's not going to be in the MQTT devices. It's actually going to be, if you don't already have it added, you need to add the Tasmota one. You have your Tasmota devices, and then you should see it. There it is. There's that one gang switch. And actually, we get the actual other sensors, unlike we didn't get with Matter, was the power monitoring stuff. So then you can see here, we get the power monitoring. Now, sometimes it may not pop up immediately, but that's also due to another thing, which is called power delta. Otherwise, it won't report the power settings right off the bat. So let's go do that right quick. So the power delta, the way that is if you put power delta space 5, that's going to report on a 5% change. You don't want to get too crazy with it because the stuff rocks back and forth. It's going to constantly be banging back and forth. You can do the absolute power change. So like if you did 101, that's going to tell you on a 1 watt change, not a percentage change. So we're doing that power delta 5, just that 5%, just so it gives us that, power reading. Let's go check it out right quick. Turn the light off. You should see it should drop out somewhat quickly. And then it's going to pop back in. You should get your power monitoring and get these cool wattages. And just to show like what chip it is and everything, I know some of the people like to nerd out there. It is saying ESP32-C3 Rev 4 and is showing 40964 flash. So that's pretty much it for doing your light switch. Pretty neat that they have a full ESP32-C3 Tasmota pre-flash. You can use it with Matter. Has some pretty flexible LEDs. Power monitoring too. I did not expect that at all. The only thing I guess if I really had to be picky, I wish they would have given us 2 buttons and not tie them both together for 1 button. That way we could use the single for also doing dimmer controls, so you can hold up and hold down. That would be pretty damn slick. But I guess if we really wanted to go there, we could just get the 2 gang or 2 relay. Look, they even got me confusing it. The 2-channel model, and that way you would get the up and down, and we could just not use the relays if we wanted to on that. But then you wouldn't get power monitoring. But do you really need power monitoring on your lights? I guess you could just calculate it, and that's kind of a weird one. So it's pretty cool that we have some ESP32-C3 light switches on the Amazon marketplace to go pick up things, and they come freaking pre-flash with Tasmota, and they have the stupid pin headers inside. So if you wanted to easily jump them to ESP Home, you don't have to do any crazy soldering. How awesome is that for Martin Jerry to do that? They definitely listen to me and a bunch of other people probably nagging them about making some cool open source light switches like this. So it's really neat to be able to see hey, I could leave Tasmota on them, their Matter, and then if I wanted to put them in a place that you're going to end up selling, you didn't have to worry about changing all the light switches out because the person coming behind you, maybe they're just using Google Home or some Echoes or whatever. It's all Matter over Wi-Fi. This isn't Thread. It's just they'll pair them up on their Wi-Fi and then scan the little Matter codes, bring it into their smart home apps and rock and roll. How awesome is that without having to reflash stuff and you were using them the whole time in Home Assistant just with the MQTT integration? That's pretty damn slick. So again, Martin Jerry didn't send them to me. I bought them off Amazon. You'll find the links down below. There's no additional cost to you. Those are affiliate links, but do the thing and yeah, press all them buttons down there and y'all take care.
actually fun riding bike. You should get yours. Come throw out. Come on.
How do I get on?
Huh?
How do I get on?
Sit on this thing. Sit right here.
How?
Okay, now put your legs on each side.
Oh, Jesus.
That's because you laying down in the snow and doing dumb crap.
I'm not. That was from that water. It looks like a shark's, fin.
Yeah.
This is cool. My hands are so cold.